Hello dear friends, glad to be back. Today is 5th of December still. Now it's about 4 o'clock afternoon Moscow time. I'm Leopard and this is my third update for the day, in which I will share information about article in Washington Post about direct involvement of of US and UK militaries in the Ukrainian conflict, and also in the planning of this so-called spring-summer autumn counteroffensive of Kyiv regime. Hopefully you will find this this short video interesting, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and share this video with your friends. It will definitely help me to reach wider audience, and I will be immensely grateful for this help. That's been said, let's talk about article itself. And well, RT did summarize this article from Washington Post, and which will definitely make some waves in upcoming days worldwide, I believe. And topics that was highlighted in this article will be mentioned by many media outlets and high-ranking officials, I guess. But anyway, let's talk about news itself. So US and British officers helped plan Ukrainian spring-summer campaign and provided all the asked for vehicles. But the Kyiv decided to divide its forces in 3 directions, according to Washington Post feature published on Monday. Over a dozen Washington Post employees interviewed more than 30 senior officials from Ukraine, US and EU, only a handful identified by name. So the outlet's conclusion was, as a result of those interviews, that counteroffensive born in optimism had failed to deliver its expected punch, generating friction and second guessing between Washington and Kyiv. So in this first half of the article, we can clearly see that Washington Post is operating or pushing this narrative that Western ruling elites, Washington and London mainly, did provide, and EU also, of course, did provide all the necessary weaponry to Kyiv regime. But for whatever reason, Kyiv decided to disperse forces in 3 different directions, and this is one of the just in this way, Washington Post and Western, let's say, ruling elites are trying to somewhat justify failure of Ukrainian forces and play this blame game, pointing finger on Kyiv and Kyiv's decisions. But let's continue with this article. So a series of 8 tabletop war games at the US base in Wiesbaden, Germany, reportedly developed a valuable detailed campaign plan for the attack. The Pentagon wanted the offensive to start mid-April and focus on cutting the land bridge to Crimea by driving to Melitopol. So if we take a look on the map, this is, by the way, Melitopol, and according to Washington Post, main axis according to Western planning, supposed to be Zaporozhye sector of the front line, and Melitopol, which is here, by the way, almost in the middle of this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. But what is also highly important in my understanding is that Washington Post openly saying that series of tabletop war games was conducted with participation of high-ranking military officials of US and UK and other NATO member states in Wiesbaden military base in Germany. So this is, I mean, clear evidence, if true, that NATO member states are not just supplying and supporting Kyiv regime with weapons and finances, but they are actually directly involved in military operations. I guess Moscow high-ranking Russian officials will make reaction on this information from Washington Post, and we will probably see some very strong statements from Moscow. But let's continue. General Mark Milley, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the time, advised the Ukrainians to also send sabotage groups into the Russian rear, saying that should be no Russian who goes to sleep without wondering if they are going to get their throats slit in the middle of the night, according to one of the officials that give interview to Washington Post. So yet again, you can clearly see what kind of individual this Mark Milley is, and I'm quite sure there will be some repercussions for him personally. It will take time, but if Mark Milley thinks that he can commit crimes against Russia and maintain safety, he is very much mistaken. He is very much mistaken, and time will tell that I was right. Anyway, let's continue. The NATO armed 47th Brigade knew that 70% of its members had no combat experience, was to lead the way. So this 47th Brigade, which was armed by NATO standards, but had only like 30% of personnel who had any combat experience. It was supposed to be in leading of this charge, Ukrainian counteroffensive, but nothing went as planned. Washington and Kyiv sharply disagreed at times over strategy, tactics, and timings, according to the Washington Post. Instead of focused assault towards Melitopol, the Ukrainian leadership insisted on attacking in the direction of Berdyansk and Bakhmut, Artyomovsk as well. Kyiv initially demanded over 1,000 armored vehicles, which U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin deemed near impossible, although eventually Ukrainian side received 1,500 military vehicles. However, some vehicles were criticized as unfit for combat, with issues like missing trucks and inadequate maintenance blamed on Ukrainian troops. And well, this is also an interesting topic, dear friends, because there were many instances when Kyiv regime refused to take some military aid from NATO member states, and probably all of us remember the story with the Leopard 1 tanks, when dozens of those type of tanks have been sent back by Kyiv regime because those tanks were completely broken down, basically, and unusable in the battlefield. Excuse me, but let's continue. And there was many videos on many different platforms also, when Ukrainian military personnel was filming state of those military vehicles, some of those military vehicles that Kyiv regime were receiving as a military aid. Many of them were really old, like 40, 50, 60-year-old vehicles that probably was taken out from storage somewhere and did not even undergo some renovation. But anyway, let's continue. The US secured supply of 155 mm artillery shells from South Korea, since it could not produce enough by itself. Well, this is also important news, dear friends. Today all day long there are many reports that South Korea is basically second after US country when it comes to shell deliveries, munition deliveries to Kyiv regime. And well, South Korean government was, I guess, forced to react on this information. And just a few minutes ago, I did share on my Telegram channel statement from official representative of South Korea's government, who said that Seoul did not send any munition to Kyiv regime at all, and mainly South Korea's support to Kyiv regime is in terms of humanitarian aid and some military equipments, but mainly minesweepers and so on, but not the munition itself. And well, probably South Korea does has true in its hands, because shells from South Korea was delivered to Kyiv regime, but those shells were maintained on US military bases. That was a US stockpile in South Korea. So Washington Post is, I guess, somewhat mistaken here while saying that it was South Korea that conducting the shipments of shells. No, in reality, those shells were US shells, and it was Pentagon that transferring that ammunition to Kyiv regime. But anyway, let's continue. Request for F-16s from Kyiv regime. F-16 fighter jets were denied due to cost concerns and the vulnerability of these fighter jets against Russian air defense systems. The US, which is also true, by the way, F-16s, they are very capable fighter jets, fourth generation fighter jets, fighter bombers, I will say, but they have no chance in skies of Ukraine, for sure, against Russian 4++ fighter jets like MiG-35, Su-30, Su-35, or let's say Su-57, 5th gen Russian fighter jet. I'm not even mentioning Russian air defense systems that are most capable in this world. Long range, medium range, and short range air defense systems. But anyway, let's continue. The US also trained and equipped 9 Ukrainian brigades in NATO methods of warfare. Simulations based on Ukrainian and Western intelligence projected Ukrainian brigades reaching the Sea of Azov in 60-90 days with up to 30-40% casualties. Well, one should say that if this is true, some changes probably has to be made in intelligence community and intelligence services of the NATO states, because if they were thinking that they're gonna reach Azov Sea in 60 or 90 days, then they definitely are not up to the task, let's say this way. Let's continue. The plan that they executed was initially feasible with the force that they had, Ukrainian side. On the timeline that we planned out, senior US military official told the Washington Post they could everything they were promised on time. Also, another senior US official stated the attack, scheduled for mid-April, finally launched into motion in early June. Ukrainian troops immediately got bogged down in minefields and mauled by Russian artillery, which is correct, by the way. Ukrainian counteroffensive did begin on the 4th of June, and almost straight away Russian forces began decimating Ukrainian brigades. And I remind you, dear friends, that just a few days ago Russian defense minister did made a statement, did share with public information, that since the beginning of the so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive, armed forces of Ukraine lost more than 120,000 military personnel, which is quite a significant number of casualties for any army. Let's continue. so incinerated Western military hardware, American Bradleys, German Leopard tanks, mine-sweeping vehicles, littered the battlefield. The numbers of dead and wounded sapped morale of Ukrainian military personnel. The Washington Post noted, after just 4 days, General Valery Zaluzhny, head of Ukraine's general staff, tossed aside American doctrine and planning, switching to similar-scale infantry assaults. The June 15 meeting at the NATO headquarters in Brussels was heavy with an air of frustration. So, as I said, the Ukrainian counteroffensive began on 4th of June, and on 15th of June there was a meeting in Brussels at the NATO headquarters. And well, according to WAPO, this meeting was heavy with an air of frustration. And Ukrainian Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov, who would be fired in September, informed Lloyd Austin, at that meeting that over 50% of the US supplied mine clearing equipment was already destroyed. In less than 2 weeks since the beginning of Ukrainian counteroffensive. Western reliance on armored maneuver and breakthrough did not work, a senior Ukrainian defense official said. Another had disdain for the wargaming approach to planning the operations, pointing the lack of accounting for the drones and other technology. All these methods, you can throw them away, he said, because it does not work like that now. The 47th Ukrainian Brigade expected to take a village of Rabotino within the 2 days. Within the 2 days of since the beginning of this Ukrainian counteroffensive, but in reality, it had not done so until August 28. And still, by the way, Rabotino is somewhat partially controlled by Ukrainian forces, because there is nothing left basically from this settlement. It's just ruins, and Ukrainian forces on daily basis are struggling to maintain their foothold in Rabotino, and has since been pulled from the section of the front line, and this 47th Brigade was pulled out from the front line and rushed to shore up the crumbling defenses of Avdiivka to the east. So this brigade, which supposed to be leading in the lead of this counteroffensive, was basically bogged down, decimated, I will say, and the remnants of that brigade was in recent weeks sent to Avdiivka direction. At almost every point along the front, expectations and results have diverged. The Washington Post noted, describing the morale in Ukraine as waning, and its cause as precarious. The British official said that Kyiv's goal of reclaiming its 1991 borders would take years and a lot of blood, assuming that it's possible at all. So this is it when it comes to short summary of this quite interesting article in Washington Post. Maybe many of you did read in original this article, but I guess not everyone. So hopefully our community will find this short video interesting, and if so, please, dear friends, click that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, share this video with your friends, and well, if you think this segment of short videos are interesting, And if you think this project itself, with several channels on YouTube, Rumble and Telegram, are interesting, then please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, on which I do share extra content on a regular basis, at least several times a week. That's been said, I will end this video. Now. I wish you a great day, dear friends. Take care and see you soon.